I said no, hey, yeah.
Hi, this is Matt Gressick. Welcome to another episode of Brick and Mortar Education from the Inside Out. I'm one of your hosts.
I'm Eric Eversole, and we're pleased to bring you people who have been inside the building to answer questions about things that are relevant to education. And today, we are proud to bring you the current county executive, although he's had many other hats, Johnny Olszewski. He's the county executive of Baltimore County. Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Good to be on.
Yep. So we do come at this from your educational background. So Matt, you want to lead off with a question here?
Sure. So the whole thing I want you to explain is, who are you, county executive, and why did you choose education and government now?
Yeah. So for those who don't know me, Baltimore County Executive Johnny O. Olszewski. More importantly than that, I'm the proud husband of Marissa and the proud father of Daria.
Good family reference. Loving that.
Yeah, she is a second grader in our public school system here in Baltimore County. And, I did what I did and do what I do because of what education did for me. I was first generation college graduate in my family, and all of the opportunities that I've had in my life, I really believe are rooted in access to good experiences and a high quality education system. And so I felt extremely fortunate that I had such incredible teachers and mentors growing up that I wanted every other child to have that too. It started out as a classroom teacher, like the two of you here in Baltimore County, social studies and special ed. And
social studies again.
Yeah.
Matt always geeks out with the social studies.
We're
teachers.
everywhere.
Well, I was also duly certified, though. We can't forget the special education certification and the work that the incredible work that special educators do across the state and country. But like you, Eric, I also sort of wanted to expand that influence and impact, and so became a state legislator. I was a member of the House of Delegates for 2 terms and was really proud of being both a teacher in the classroom, but also advocating for educational policies that in the same way had a broader impact of creating economic mobility and opportunity through quality schools. And then lost a race for the state Senate after 2 terms in the House. But at that point, really had started my family and was thinking about the future and knew not only is it important to have great leaders at the state, but just what a difference local leadership matters in our schools. And so really this job has been a confluence of things I love, local government and education. And I get to work very closely with our school system, as Baltimore County uniquely is one of those counties that is the primary fiscal agent for our school system across the country. So,
and you're the king of the slim margin in both directions when it comes to winning, losing elections. So
17 votes.
When he says he lost an election, that's a relative term too in this.
Well, I lost an election by several hundred votes, and then I won an election by about less than 2 dozen. So,
right, but that's why people should vote. We always say that. You're a gleaming example of that, to be sure. All right,
I'll do the next question. What's your most difficult, challenging, funniest, or most rewarding moment? Basically, it's story time. Just tell us a story in education that sticks out to you that you'd like to share with our audience.
Well, if you guys will indulge me a little bit, it's sort of a mix of this job and what I learned as a teacher. And so when I first was elected county executive, I had these big, grandiose plans to really change the county and invest in things that have been forgotten about for so long. One of the first meetings I had was I sat down to do a budget review, and my budget director at the time slid over a budget book and said, you might want to look at the bottom of page 94, footnote 3, where it basically said that there is a $80+ million structural deficit built into the budget that assumed there was going to be new revenue raised or significant cuts or both. And the teacher in me sort of went to work and took it as a challenge almost to really engage our communities. And so we did these town halls that hadn't really been done before. We still have thousands of people come out, and we basically give a little lecture right at the top. We give a little lesson where we walk through the finances of county government. That first year, it was a little bit of cold water for everybody, but we believe that people are responsible and responsive and adults that can handle the truth. And we opened up our books. We told folks where we were, we asked them what they wanted, and we made the case for, making some additional cuts and efficiencies, but also having to have the resources to make the investments that people wanted. And so I really leaned on my time as a teacher through that first really challenging moment here in Baltimore County. And so I'm sort of, it's fun to be able to merge those two experiences in that sort of way.
And
I love,
you had a great interactive tool as a teacher that people could use to fool around with the budget a little bit. And that's, you knew, and we know that that's valuable for people to be able to.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing, that budget calculator. I actually used it in my classroom when we talked about local governance. So kids in Howard County were learning about the Baltimore County budget at the same time. So thank you for that.
Yes.
It's actually interesting. We were just out visiting with St. Louis County. It was a very similar sister county to us, and they asked us to present, among other things, on how we did our budgeting process. And part of that conversation was not just the town halls, but also the balancing act budget tool. Mm-hmm. And we're proud of that work, and we're proud now that on the back end of budgets, people can go in on open checkbook and see down to the check how those dollars are actually being deployed, so that there's also some accountability on the back end in terms of ensuring that they're being spent in the right places.
Yeah, and I'm going to do a quick plug for you here. St. Louis and Baltimore have a similar geopolitical outline where the city's pretty tightly drawn. And so I know that that's why we're comparable, but I will also say that you are making efforts to include Baltimore County in the general governance. The water and sewer one is a great example of that right now. But let's stay on education. Sorry, I don't want to. So one of the things that in your past that you are is what people call SMOB, which sounds kind of gross, student member of the board. And you and I both had an interest in expanding the student member of the board's voting privileges. So I want to know about your experience as student member of the board. How were you treated? What did you find? And what do you think about student member of the board now?
I loved my time as student member of the board. It's hard to believe that it was back in 1999 through 2000 that happened. So coming up on like the 25th anniversary of being a SMOB.
Yeah, I thought we were about the same age, but I guess not.
We're close, but not that close, Air Delegate. But I have to say, it was one of the most formative experiences of my young life to have had that opportunity, interacting both with students throughout Baltimore County and the student council system, but also to be engaging with teachers and administrators. And I have to give a lot of credit to the board members at the time. They really believed that the perspective of the student member mattered as much as any other adult perspective. I mean, everyone came at it from, some were lawyers, some were parents, some were former students, some were college professors, but they just knew that having that perspective at the table was just as valuable. And they treated me as a true and authentic colleague. It helps when you do your homework and have thoughtful questions and insights to share. And that I always sort of felt like the bar was higher, and I treated it like I needed to sort of prove my value there. But I have to say, in the 25 years or so since I've seen student members, they have consistently been some of the highest caliber young people I've met in my life. They're constantly working hard. They're doing their homework. They're asking the right questions. They're advocating for not just students, but the entire system. And so, Matt, I know you're supportive of our student members. Eric, I was, honored to support you and the delegation who put in the legislation to really give them voting rights on the budget and include that training, not just for them, but for all members. But I do think the conversation is more robust. It includes, it's not unlike anything else, having individuals of color, women, men, different religions. The more experiences and the more diversity you have at a table, the better the decisions are. And I think that's absolutely true of student members of the board.
And I'm sure it was no exception for you, but my experience with student members is, as you say, they're
I probably was the exception rather than the rule.
Not at all. They're very high caliber to start with, but they also work a little harder. You said it in your answer that there are biases against them in some cases. People assume they're kids and they're unable to understand. So they sometimes study harder and are really ready to go when it comes time to make decisions or weigh in on decisions. They can be some of our most informed board members simply because they're there in the school system, but also because they're working hard to prove themselves.
Well, and it's also engaging the agency of those students we serve, and their choice and their autonomy and all that goes into it. We're not seeing students as cogs in this industrial education machine anymore. They are active participants.
So yeah, thank you. I enjoyed, working along with you too to expand it. Baltimore County is one of only 3 counties that has that much ability for the students to vote, and I'm proud of Baltimore County for that
I was
particular.
gonna say we're an outlier in that regard. If counties in Maryland have a student member of the board, which they don't all do, but if they do, very few of them have that fiscal authority granted to student members as opportunities to be full voting members.
And honestly, listening to people testify on that bill, especially legislators, some of them said some of the most demeaning things to some of the students that were testifying, which was a demonstration of what they have to overcome to prove their worth. But I've never in Howard County, where I taught, in Baltimore County, where I live, have been surprised that a student is not doing their job. They always are. They're always on point, it seems to me. So
totally agree.
Let it go again.
Hello, sir.
Hey there. Is this a caller calling into our podcast?
Yes, it is. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh my God. And we've been on the air for so long. You must be, you must be really well steeped in us. Can you tell us your name, caller?
Pat Young.
What, say it again.
It's Pat Young.
Pat Young. I live in Southwest Baltimore County. We have a councilman down here named Pat Young. What are the chances of that?
Just crazy coincidental.
No, it's almost like I feel like I know you. I'm not sure. So we have the county executive here on the line, and do you have a question for him?
I do. I would love to find out from the county executive how his time as a teacher has influenced his current position and the decisions that he makes related to, budgets, the school system, and just how it influences his thought process when, governing over the county.
As ever, we have the most intelligent listeners.
You have some great listeners here.
Matt
and Eric, I gotta tell you just really like.
This was kind of the next thing we wanted to go to anyway. It's almost like they anticipate us somehow.
That's incredible.
I know. So yeah, you want to fill us in a little bit there, Johnny?
Sure. No, Pat, great question. It's good to hear you as well. Thanks for calling in today. Look, my time in the classroom anchors everything that I do in a lot of ways, not just in this job, but in my life. And as I was saying earlier, it wasn't just my personal experiences like as a student and coming through the school system and what it meant for me as a public school kid and as a first generation college graduate, but to have seen firsthand how you are then changing the lives of your young people in those positive, productive ways, to see what the extra nights and weekends when we had the high school assessment. I don't know if you guys remember the high school assessments, but just
well,
kids who thought they couldn't pass and wouldn't graduate, and the look on their eyes when they sort of stuck it through and did the extra review sessions and felt that sense of accomplishment. Or the student 10 years later that, you pulled aside and you encouraged and invested and talked to the family and knew that like there was potential there and just kept telling them that you believed in them. And then to have them 10 years later come back and say, hey, Mr. O, meet my wife. Oh, by the way, we're expecting, I just finished an apprenticeship. I'm doing really well. I just bought a house. We're getting married. Like it's those like plant the seed moments that you don't even realize until 5, 10, 15 years down the road about what impact you have on them. I think we've all experienced that with teachers in our lives where it's like, we know what teachers meant to us however many years later, but it's that same perspective of if we miss those opportunities, right? If we're not supporting Matt in his classroom, and when you were teaching Eric, like if we're not putting in those supports, the class size, the conditions, the social workers, the pupil personnel workers, the special educators, the like if we don't have those support networks in place, you miss the opportunity to have that interaction and to change that life. And so that's sort of the perspective that you bring it. And now sort of like rolling into another generation, right? My daughter is going through that with other young people. And it's like, okay, I don't want her to miss that. I don't want her peers to miss that. So that, I really can't impress enough about how those experiences really inform the work that I do. And so, Pat Young, thank you for that really thoughtful question.
I think he's gone, but it was
Well, thanks anyways, Pat.
no, he's still here. He's still here. So, and I do think it's very important for us generally that to have people like you and me and guys like Eric Ludke who've been in the classroom and value the in-school things that go on, where some of the policy decision making is made for education. So, thank you, Matt.
Well, let's get to the last question. Let's go. I know you want to ask the mascot question, so let's get to the mascot question.
So, Matt and I both taught at Reservoir High School. And Reservoir High School adopted the name Gators, but we always thought they should be the Reservoir Retrievers. Nice alliteration. And then they could have been the Reservoir Dogs. Okay. So that would have been a change that we would have made if we could have behaved badly. So do you have a mascot out there in some school you've been to or interact with or went to that you would change?
Well, I will say that I actually am a fan of my high school's mascot. I went to Sparrows Point and we were the Sparrows Point Pointers.
Yeah.
So we were the water dogs or whatever. I don't know what you want to call it, but like not quite as cool in terms of a nickname, but the alliteration worked there. So I was a fan of being a pointer. It really sort of jived with the school name. But what I can tell you, and this might get me in trouble with my health department, is that we have this basketball mascot in the health department. His name is Sure Shot. Now, Sure Shot, I love you, but I think that you are an odd mascot to be encouraging people to get vaccinations. I get the joke.
I get it now.
Right? Get your shot. He's Sure Shot. But you have to sort of understand the name relative to getting. But this is a good reminder. You had to
explain it to me to understand.
We are seeing an uptick in COVID is coming around again. Flu season is upon us. Please make sure you get your booster for COVID-19 and your flu shot. Sure Shot and County Executive Johnny O encourage you to do so.
This has been a public service announcement.
Yes.
We are happy to help you with that. So,
the public health and public
It's
education.
a good idea, but it needs it just like with me, I was like, I don't get it. Now I do, but I didn't get it until you had to explain it to me. So I see.
Yeah, once it's explained, you get it, but you shouldn't have to explain a mascot.
Yeah. You should not have to. So listen,
Needles
thank you so much for coming on board with us. We're really grateful for the time you gave us. We're really grateful for the things you do overall, but also for education.
Thank you guys for the work that you do and for shining a spotlight on educational issues. There are no shortage of good things happening, but also more things that we need to do. So I really want to applaud the two of you for the work you do in the classroom, in the legislature, and here.
Thank you. And go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was just going to say, with my two kids, Ellie and Frankie, going to Baltimore County Public Schools, and I remember you going through that and those assumptions of that money and that leadership that it took, because it's not easy to raise revenue and to tell people their taxes are going to increase. And I just thought you showed so much courage, wisdom, and dedication to being a leader at that point. And I'm proud when I say Johnny Olszewski is my county executive, and you care about education.
Children in Baltimore County schools.
And thank you.
So I show my age. I have grandkids in Baltimore County schools, but also the exact same message. And Matt, well said. Sorry, I cut you off a little at the end there. But this is Brick and Mortar Education from the Inside Out. We're pleased to have the county executive Johnny Olszewski on this week, but we will be on again in a couple of weeks, and we invite you to tune in. Thank you so much, County Executive.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you.
And
take care.
Okay.
Seen the bright